Okay, so I'm so happy to see that so many of you today wanted to talk about common teaching mistakes. This is a topic that I find really, really interesting, especially when I get to train first-time teachers, because some mistakes recur in both first-time teachers and experienced teachers. So as such, I think it is a fantastic area to focus on, especially if we are reflective teachers. Yeah, if we can reflect on our teaching, I think it's half of the work already done. So that's why this topic. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elzbieta Chudoba. I'm based in Bielsko-Biala. I work for International House here. I'm the director of studies at the school and a teacher, of course, but I also train teachers on our in-house training program and on the IH course. Yeah, all of our observations are normally followed by a feedback session, by a constructive feedback session. And the lessons of the course of the IH are additionally assessed. So all of my reflections today are based on those observations. Yeah, those observations which are taken really, really seriously, and hopefully are informative for our teachers. Okay. The first area I would like us to focus on is too much L1 in the classroom. Here, I don't want to talk about lower level classes. Yeah, here I want to talk about higher level students who should have enough English to be able to use it more or less fluently in the classroom. Yeah, so probably students starting from the pre-intermediate level. As we know, elementary students need to refer to L1 quite a lot, especially if they are adults, right? Because it's really, really difficult for them to only stick to English or be quiet. So when it comes to those slightly higher levels, I sometimes notice that there are quite a few missed opportunities in the lessons I see. And it's not because the students don't know English well enough. It's not because they don't have the English the teacher might want from them. But maybe it's because the teacher doesn't really insist on English being used in the classroom. Yeah. Sometimes maybe the first-time teacher is too shy to keep reminding his or her students about the English-only culture in the classroom, or maybe they are simply too busy setting up for the next task, yeah, and too busy delivering the lesson. So as such, I think this area gets overlooked a little bit. And when it comes to the planning stage, for example, it also gets overlooked sometimes, especially when teachers don't focus on ICQs, when they don't focus on CCQs. Let's just clarify what those two things are. Yeah, by ICQs, I mean instruction checking questions, and by CCQs, I mean concept checking questions. Yeah, so when we give instructions to students, we should double check if they really understood them. When we explain something, language points, so grammar, vocabulary, or functional language, we should also check if students understand what we have just presented, just explained, or just elicited from them by asking carefully chosen concept checking questions. Sometimes teachers forget that those questions should be actually graded. Yeah, so the English used in such questions should be much easier than the target language for this stage. Yeah, this is the only way for us to ensure that students have actually understood us. If our ICQs or CCQs are planned very last minute, if they are not carefully prepared, there is a chance we will not take advantage with them, there is a chance they will be quite ineffective. And what's the point? What's the point of asking an ineffective ICQ? It doesn't really make sense, yeah? Students might feel a little bit patronized here. The same applies to CCQs. So we need to pay careful attention to those two. Another mistake that some teachers tend to make is frequently referring to L1, yeah, whether their knowledge of it is relatively good or whether they are only beginners in the language. Very often they are tempted to refer to the students L1, yeah, either when it comes to instructions or target language. This helps students see that this is one alternative in the classroom. Yeah, we can simply stick to our L1. And in this way, they actually miss out on quite a few opportunities. Sometimes the teacher might refer to L1 or might ask a student to help him or her with instructions by translating the instructions for the group. Of course, that's perfectly fine in emergency situations, yeah, if there's something seriously wrong in the lesson. But as such, if it's something we should have planned, if it's something that is our target skill, target language, we should be the ones who are prepared with ICQs and CCQs. If we think about those common mistakes, I thought we could brainstorm some long-term consequences of this problem for our students. So if you have any ideas, I would like you to pop them in the chat box. What are the long-term consequences of too much L1 being used in the English language classroom? You don't need to give me a full sentence and a full explanation. It is just enough to throw a couple of ideas out there. Laziness, exactly, Richard. Yes, or students just then resort to translation. Thank you, Elmira. That's a very good point. Students don't really get to exploit English. They don't get to use English enough in the classroom. And just like Alisa is saying, there is less exposure to English, so they are missing out on some very, very important opportunities. Absolutely. There's less authority as well. And, you know, as language teachers, we should remember that, you know, translating to and from L1 at all times is not the best strategy, right? It is impossible, right, to actually apply this technique. Yeah, our students need to know how to think in English, how to function in English. There is no time to translate. Exactly, Julia, slower language acquisition. Yeah, they, again, without enough practice, without enough exposure, their progress will be slower. Right. So, yeah, the long-term consequences might be quite serious, actually. Yeah, you might end up with what would have otherwise been a high-level student who is totally reliant on Polish, yeah, and the translation method, so to say. I don't think this is entirely good, yeah, and I think our courses are not effective if there is a lot of L1 in them. So what can we do to solve this problem? Yeah, what can we do to avoid too much L1? Have you got any thoughts here, any strategies or any techniques that you have been using? Yeah, a great first thought from Elmira. Absolutely. And another great one from Agnieszka. Yeah, It is extremely important to start the course with the right attitude. It is extremely important to make sure your rules are clear. And it is extremely important to let your students know from the very first lesson that L1 is not the answer. Yeah, very good, Richard. Exactly. Yeah, pretend you don't understand. Ask them to rephrase this in English. Yeah, absolutely have a reward system that will actually give them some benefits, yeah, if they are using English at all times. So there is quite a lot we can do, and as such, those things are all, you know, small steps really that we should take every single lesson from the beginning of the course. We might often inherit a class, a group of young people who are used to using L1. So in this case, yeah, we should expect the first weeks to be maybe a little bit tricky because they will need time to get retrained, but it is doable and it's absolutely worth it. Exactly, Michał. You can also play loads of games, yeah, to help students use English more, and of course, give your students classroom language, yeah, classroom language they need, ideally with some visual scaffolding, yeah, something that Aga referred to earlier on. If there is no visual scaffolding, yeah, for the English they need, students might not remember about it, yeah, because their learning takes place on a, you know, in every single lesson, yeah, not just once. So that's the first problem I wanted us to focus on. The second one is maybe a little bit linked, yeah. I think there is a certain overlap here, because the second area that many teachers might neglect is the emergent language. Yeah, so emergent language is the language that students might need during spontaneous communication in class. Yeah, maybe during the warmer, maybe when you're asking them about their week or their day and how it went. Very often this language relates to what's currently happening in the country, in the students' lives. It is this kind of language that is really, really near to their hearts. So as such, it is language they really need. What I have noticed is that sometimes teachers think it's not important, especially when they compare it with the lesson aims maybe. Or they might think there is no time. Yeah, there is no time for them to stop and help the student, or provide them, yeah, with the word, with the expression, which sometimes means that they need to spend a little bit of time investigating, yeah, investigating what the student actually wanted to say. Many teachers feel there is no time. It also happens that, okay, maybe the students are given the word or the expression they need. Maybe the teacher is very helpful, but the language does not get recorded on the board. Yeah, it is not written anywhere. There is no record of it. And then later in the lesson, there is no visual reference to it. And as such, again, linking to what Aga said earlier on, the scaffolding isn't there. Yeah, so the student has no help. If we think about the potential consequences of not exploiting emergent language with our students, of neglecting it, short term or long term, what might be those consequences? Can you let me know what you think in the chat box? Oh, that's a great point, Chris. Yes, we are teaching the books rather than our students, or we are teaching our lesson plan, yeah, instead of our students. Absolutely. And another great point from Richard. Thank you, Richard. After a while, they will give up. Yeah, they will become passive. And as such, maybe they will not benefit from the course as much. They will not enjoy the course, and they might drop out. So we might lose a client. Yeah, absolutely. Less involvement. They might also feel the lesson is not personalized. They might feel we don't care about what they want to say. And of course, yeah, Barbara, they will feel frustrated, yeah. And yeah, we are asking them a question, never really giving them any assistance with it. A massive, massive shame and another missed opportunity. Aga is also talking about not developing a strategy. Absolutely. So as such, our students won't then have the tools to cope on their own. And again, they will not be, maybe they will not be not necessarily, autonomous or independent, but, with a little bit of help they have, they could step by step actually develop it. Yeah. So when it comes to the possible solutions here, well, I'm pretty sure that you have a number of suggestions here. What would be the first simple thing that springs to mind here? How can we help ourselves, our teachers, if we are teacher managers or academic managers, how can we help them focus on emergent language? How can we make them do it? What do you mean, Julia, by immediate positive feedback? Oh, great. Thank you, Rachel, for your suggestion. Yes, absolutely. It is vital, to make sure there is space on the board devoted to emergent language. Yeah, if there is a visual anchor for us to remember about, if there is a column or a little let's say box on the whiteboard, we will not forget about it. And our teachers, if we're supervising them, they should also remember about it. Yeah, so that's, I think, the quickest fix here possible. And then Chris is also suggesting a review at the end of the lesson. Yeah, absolutely. It is very important to help students learn the language, so revise it. And of course, review the language from lesson to lesson. Yeah, the beginning of each lesson or towards the end of each lesson. If you have it on the board, nothing easier. Just, point to the language towards the end of the lesson and ask your students to give you more examples. Absolutely. So simply genuinely listen to them, and they will listen to each other as well. Right. Of course, encourage your students to write it down. Absolutely. That's a very good point, Rachel. Yeah, maybe they don't know they are in charge of it. Yeah, so as such, we need to equip them with the tools, but first train them up on this a little bit, and show them that we are there for them, and their emergent language is the language we are teaching them as well. Nothing really extra. It is maybe one of the reasons we are there, every single time, to focus on it. Okay, so thank you for your comments here. The next area I wanted to focus on, well, you can't see it here. I think something happened here. All right, well, the third problem area I wanted us to focus on is feedback stages. Mismanaged feedback stages, or maybe feedback stages that were not exploited well. Feedback stages we didn't take advantage of. By feedback stages, I mean feedback stages after activities. So let's imagine we are doing a controlled practice activity or a freer practice activity, and in the lesson plan we have a very short comment which says feedback, open class feedback, right? Very often those moments in the lesson are not played well, so to say. What I have noticed quite often is that those stages are not detailed enough. Teachers don't go in depth on the mistakes their students made. They might gloss over any potential issues just to get to the next stage of the lesson, or quite the opposite. The feedback stage might be too long. It might drag on forever. Teachers might pore over every single answer, eliciting justification for every single answer. We should remember that, justification is important, but we have to be quite careful with it. Of course, as we can see here, one of the biggest mistakes is no justification of answers. Just moving on to the next activity after you or the teacher we're talking about has given the students the answers. So if those mistakes are made in feedback stages, and there are some serious consequences here for our students. So maybe once again, if you could share your ideas here about the possible long-term consequences of this problem in the chat box. Yeah, absolutely, Rachel. Yes, students will switch off. Yeah, if the feedback stage is too long, and if it's too short, they will be confused and there will not be any learning taking place. Yeah, there might be no reflection. There might be no thinking done on the student's part. And of course, yeah, it's very likely our students will repeat their mistakes. Right. Especially adult students might feel quite frustrated. Yeah, like, why did we do this activity if there's no relevant feedback? Yeah, why did we do it if we're not learning from it? Yeah, we need to remember that our feedback stages are additional, if not the key learning opportunities for our students in our lessons. And just like, yeah, this is what Elmira is saying as well. It is quite important to make sure our students understand their mistakes, yeah, and understand also why they did certain things right, yeah. So they should be also, those things should be reinforced, yeah. Why did they get it right and why were they wrong should be clarified. So what possible solutions could we have here to rectify this? Are there any quick fixes really in this area? Yeah, Almira is also talking about less confidence. Yeah, long term, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. An interesting idea from Rachel. Yes, ask a colleague. Yeah, to check our feedback stages. I like Louise's idea. Yeah, plan the feedback stage in detail, especially if you're a novice teacher. Yeah, it is extremely important for you to focus on it in detail. And Stephen has a quick fix for us. Identify any errors from example answers on the board. Okay. So maybe discussing the answers the students had wrong. Yeah, their incorrect answers, giving them another opportunity to zoom in on those answers. That's a very nice suggestion, Stephen. Thank you. And yeah, another great suggestion from Richard. Yes, if we can see that, most answers are correct, yeah, or if students have the same answers, this might mean that, yeah, we don't need an in-depth feedback session. Maybe we just need to focus on 2 or 3 problematic questions, yeah, and that's how we'll help our students really, really focus on the things they didn't know instead of everything or nothing. Some great ideas there. All right, and moving on, the fourth problem I wanted to discuss with you today is not enough preparation before speaking tasks. This might also refer to writing tasks, but since many lessons I see focus on communication, they focus on speaking. I normally see the issues that I'll mention in a moment. I very often see that students are given a speaking task, but there's no criteria. We have the instructions, the students know what they have to say, but they don't know how they should really approach it and what is important in each task. Quite often, I also see little scaffolding to help students speak more or speak at length. And at times it also happens that the brainstorming session before this speaking activity isn't long enough, or maybe it's not there at all. And as such, those things might pose some serious problems for our students in speaking, or like I said, in writing tasks. And what might those problems be? How might our students feel if there isn't enough preparation before speaking tasks. What are your ideas? Can you let me know? Yes, Richard here says scaffolding would include giving a demo, a model. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, reluctance to speak. Yeah, not knowing what's expected of them. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly, Barbara. Good. Yes, there's a lot of silence or a lot of L1. Exactly. This is what might happen. And of course, yeah, students might lack ideas or they might lack the language to perform well and to do well. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, this is what Chris is also pointing to. And they don't know why they are speaking. So it would be really great if we actually told them, yeah, are we practicing a function? Are we just, yeah, maybe predicting ideas for reading? Or are we actually focusing on speaking skills? Yeah, and in the long term, our students might also think that, well, it's like, especially the strong ones, yeah, I'll just talk. It's not important what I say or how I say it. It is only important for me to speak, yeah, and to, show the teacher I'm fluent. And later in their, English learning career, they might find out that it's not enough, yeah. They might not be successful in exams. They might be not successful when studying at higher levels. So as such, we should help them here a little bit. So I think the solutions here are really, really straightforward. Yeah, we should give them the criteria, we should give them the scaffolding, and we should let them brainstorm ideas before they speak. Some good ideas there from Elmira. ICQs, of course, and a very good point here from you, Elmira. Thank you. Per work, of course, of course. When it comes to communication, when it comes to speaking, only per work or smaller groups. Having the criteria displayed somewhere out there on the whiteboard, extremely important. And it's also important to discuss the criteria with the students, at least the first time we refer to the criteria we decide on for the course. And helping our students here should really, really help the shyer ones, yeah, the ones who might be more reluctant to speak, who might be a little bit more withdrawn, and they will feel more confident, they will feel better prepared, and as such, they will enjoy the lessons more, they will enjoy the whole course more, and they might feel they are progressing faster. Richard's suggestion here is also quite useful. Yeah, how would you yourself answer the questions? Maybe you, as a competent adult, would have nothing to say actually, right? And of course, they will struggle if that's the case. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Richard. The final problem I wanted us to focus on today is related to speaking, related to a communication as well. I think it's something that many teachers are guilty of, especially, if maybe there wasn't enough time to prepare a lesson, or a student's mistake takes us off guard and we are not prepared. I think sometimes there's not enough focus on pronunciation. I think that many teachers forget about it and are perfectly happy if they can understand what their students are saying. They think that, the student being intelligible is, great, and that's all we want from them. I also noticed that many repeated mistakes do not get corrected. If you are familiar with Polish speakers, I'm pretty sure you can name those mistakes. We quite often, those of us whose English might be maybe a little bit better than this of our students might be like, oh, well, I hear this mistake over and over again. Well, we hear it because many teachers forget to correct their students, yeah? And if we're not paying enough attention to pronunciation, what can happen in the long term? What can happen even if the students are intelligible, even if, they seem happy with their English? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Rachel. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, they think it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great point from Chris. Yeah, we are teachers, so we can understand way more, yeah, than other English users. That's a fantastic point, Chris, actually. Yeah, we are so used to mistake, yeah, and so used to mispronunciation that we could we could decode any message. Yeah, that's a very good point, Chris. And yeah, and our students think, everything is fine. Yeah, they're happy with their English. Yeah, no problem. They just get on with it. Well, that's, not necessarily what we might expect from our students, especially if we are ambitious teachers and if the stakes are high for our students. Yeah, our students, especially adults, higher level adults, very often they are successful professionals who need English for work. And yeah, so if we imagine a CEO who happens to be our student making some pretty basic pronunciation mistakes, and if we don't correct this person, what does it say about us as their teachers? Yeah, I think we should be really, really careful here and pay attention to it. And of course, Elmira is saying they might convey the wrong message. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Miscommunication might happen. So let's just think about the possible solutions here, possible fixes. Well, we have a suggestion here from Sophie about tongue twisters. I would focus more on minimal pairs, maybe. Yeah. Tongue twisters might be great, sometimes, but when it comes to let's say real life language, that's maybe a little bit extra, yeah, like a special add-on. Right, yeah, thank you for your suggestion, Julia. Maybe correct them straight away if there was miscommunication, yeah. If it was a speaking task, maybe you will want to wait with your feedback a little bit. Yeah, role play, ear training, exactly, Elmira. Thank you for your suggestion. We need to first train them up on this. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, we need to dedicate time to it in class. Yeah, we need to show our students that it is important. Yeah. Thank you, Piotr. Yeah, absolutely. Make notes. Yeah, we think we can remember all the mistakes and go back to them when we do delayed feedback. But I think it's easier said than done. Yeah, it's really, really easy to forget the actual mistake and then analyze it. Yeah, so we do need to write it down. Sounding outwards. Okay, that sounds fantastic, Stephen. Yes. So train them up on this. Yeah, and a great suggestion from Richard there. Yes, write out exactly what they said. Yeah, and they can then analyze it on their own. Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, we should remember that pronunciation is form. Yeah, it is form. It's, one aspect of actually knowing a word or a phrase. So if our students don't know how to pronounce a word or a phrase, it basically means they don't really know it. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. Comfortable. Yeah, thank you for this. That's a good question from Elmira. What do we do if a mistake occurred at least 100 times in the lesson? Yeah. Well, if the lessons were all our lessons, there's something wrong with our teaching. We should have reacted sooner. But if it is a recurrent mistake, again, a little bit of training, yeah, a little bit of visual scaffolding there for them, maybe a visual clue, a visual anchor somewhere on your slide or somewhere in the classroom. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but many teachers have this S in a circle printed and laminated and posted somewhere in the room. And when a student says, oh, she go to the gym every week, they just point to the S in the circle and wait for the student to correct the mistake. A very effective way of training the students and giving them a little bit of autonomy there. Thank you all for your ideas here, some fantastic suggestions. This was the last area I wanted to focus on, and I think the main takeaways for us today from those four problem areas are basically the following. We should always remember to analyze our students' needs, put them first, and analyze their language. And we should self-reflect as well. Yeah, if we don't do it, I don't think, our students can be helped. Yeah, we should reflect after each lesson. And something that maybe some of you have pointed to in this session, see your lessons from an observer's and also your students' perspectives. Yeah, so those are two completely different perspectives. But if you don't do it, you will always be stuck in your teacher perspective. Yeah, and you might not see certain things. So thank you for bearing with me. If you would like to contact me, if you have any, further questions after the questions we discuss in a moment, feel free to contact me and drop me a line.